Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, double
What is
echo.
happening? Is it playing back?
Well,
That needed to happen because you know how she gets the splash? Because it's like, oh yeah, I'm walking down the city and I'm so great. And then it's whoosh, reality.
with
That was that moment. We're like, look, we're so cute. We're so funny. Whoa, technical difficulty.
with the iconic tutu intro is
Mhm.
ridiculous. Okay. Hi everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, we have to keep it on schedule because this is also going into Stella Speaks podcast. So we don't want to like make it 6 hour long. We can make it 6 hours long, but
Good, sadly. Well,
okay.
most in but especially this one.
All right, so let's do an official welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, lovers.
Lovers.
And then this is the very first inaugural. Welcome to Hex.
City.
So tell the listener, the viewer, how did this thing came along?
So we're dear friends, the two of us, and talk about all the things. But one of the things that we like to talk about is our mutual obsessions, of which Sex and the City is one, tarot being another. And so putting these things together and say, okay, everyone's watching TV right now. We are in pandemic land. So let's do a rewatch podcast, which there are some great rewatch podcasts out there. I'll link some others that you might find fun later. But the whole concept is we're watching Sex in the City and then we're talking about it from a tarot and witch angle, hence Hex and the City.
Ta-ta! I couldn't be more excited when she brought me that idea because I was on a spin, kind of like on a on a like, why am I still single? And I'm like, I me up. And the funny thing about Sex and the City, it always picks me up. Like no matter how like desperate or sad the situation is, it always kind of like there's a hopefulness to it. There's a like, you know, the writing is so clever. And then I also think that because we are both writers, you know, like in real life we actually write things. So it really like clicked into that shot when Carrie always, you know, having that, you know, on that MacBook. I couldn't
help but wonder. And that thing about how your life impacts your art and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to the strip club to do research, you know, like the things that we've had to do for writing projects and acting projects. And you're like, okay.
Which we both have done.
We've both done all kinds of stuff like that where we're like, all right, we're doing this now.
I actually went to a strip club because I was choreographing for Cabaret, the musical.
You're like, here I am.
You know.
Shoes. Interesting.
Okay, let's tell the listener and the viewer, because I'm on YouTube right now. This is a live podcast in a way. I'm doing everything. I'm so proud of myself. I'm doing now like a live podcast. I have a YouTube channel. I have Instagram. I have TikTok.
Oh yeah, you're all over the TikTok. Yeah, you're doing all the things.
Anywho, so let's tell them about our format.
Right. So this is going to be episode by episode. So we're talking about the first episode today. The first thing that we'll do is we are going to draw a card, each of us, from our respective decks. I've been on a bit of an oracle kick, so I'm going to be drawing from oracle decks. And then we all know the unboxing haul king over here will have at least one deck to show. And we'll try to describe it as best we can for the listener too.
I was having such trouble choosing the right deck for this episode. I'm like, should I do Couture?
I was wondering if you use that new Couture deck.
Right? Should I do Sex deck? But then I'm like, you know what? This is the pilot, the very first pilot. And it's more a writer base. So we haven't gone too much into the sex yet. We haven't gone too much into the Couture fashion yet. So, and I'm like, you know what? I'll use the Muse Tarot.
Yeah.
Perfect. And what are you using?
I'm going to use, this is an oldie but a goodie. I love this deck. The Goddess Inspiration Oracle by Chris Wilder. There's a tarot of this too. You might have the tarot. But
I don't have the tarot. I have the Oracle.
You have the
Oracle better.
That was the first tarot deck I ever had. A good friend of mine in middle school gave it to me. First it was that Goddess Tarot.
One of my viewer on YouTube saying that by 8/11 moon, saying that how did you ever pick a deck? I have no idea, ladies and gentlemen, and all those who are in between. I just go with my gut, and then it just happens. And I think this is perfect.
This one. Yeah, I think that's good.
Without further ado, one card draw right now.
Yeah. I'm going to shuffle 4 times in honor of the 4 main characters of the show.
Very specific.
Miranda.
Very specific. And then once we do the 1 card draw, and all those who are watching or listening right now can do the same thing. Get out your deck. And if you want to draw a card for that episode, this is the very first episode, the pilot. If you want to do that, please do. And then we will talk about the card relating to that episode. I do twice already. One more time. This is also, I also have to keep this in mind that this is going to transfer into your podcast. So I have to keep on talking because otherwise.
I know, we have to say what we're doing. I know.
Yeah, it will be. There's so
holding my deck. I'm holding my card and not looking at it yet. Which is really hard.
Card. 3, 2, 1, flip. The page of inspiration.
Inspiration. Is that wands then, or is that
wands? Yeah.
Perfect.
Page of inspiration. It is literally perfect.
It's what perfect, is yours? Right? Mine is Sibylle, and it says, "Acknowledge your animal nature."
Perfect. It is literally. Oh my God!
There we go. Having sex like a man, right? Like the whole first episode thing, and like that, absolutely. Like the beginnings of new things, and Carrie being inspired, us being inspired to do the podcast. Yeah.
This is delightful. This is a delightful.
I just love when the universe is like, I got our back.
Right.
All right. So I guess we'll get into it then.
Yeah. Let me do this first. I just want to say hello to everyone. I might not be able to announce all the names that are showing up in the chat right now, but you all know that I'm watching right now. Just gonna do 5 shout out quickly. The Tigers of Bliss here. Jamie is here. The in Material Garden Nee is here. Lady Knight of Avalon is here. Everyone, thank you for coming. Love you, love you, love you. Let's jump right into it. Let's do the comment if you are in the live chat right now on YouTube. By the way, I am on the Cusp Tarot. If you're listening on Stella Speaks podcast, jump over to YouTube, subscribe, all those good stuff. And for those who are watching right now on my channel, YouTube Live, go over to podcast. Where are you right now on podcast?
You can get me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. YouTube to be revealed within the next couple of weeks.
Yep, Stella Speaks, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so for those who are watching, listening, you can, if you're listening, also you can speak up. How many of you are Sex and the City addict or super fan or whatsoever? Comment down below in the live chat while we go into the first topic that we want to talk about. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is the storytelling So like right when the first episode opens, it's like a fairy tale. It's that modern American New York fairy tale. Once upon a time, this girl, she meets a rich banker and they fall in love within 2 weeks. And then they're going to meet her. What is it? They're going to meet his parents and then he flakes out and then she like has a meltdown.
And then it transitioned to what Carrie is listening to the story, which start off the whole Sex and the series empire, beautiful business.
Yeah. And she starts out like perfect Carrie moment. She stubs out her cigarette and she's like, no one had told her that. Did she say love is dead in Manhattan or romance is dead in Manhattan?
Something a lot. Romance has go into co-op or something like that. Romance.
The co-op, yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting. I don't remember the way that they shot it because this is the pilot, right? So it's completely separate from the series itself. The pilot usually is like they pitch it, they have an idea for those who are, not theater actor related. So they pitch the idea, they shot this first episode, which is the pilot, and they use this episode to kind of pitch it to the executive and test the water and see if it's going to be a huge success. So, and then once they know the feedback or whatever, the general public, and then they will kind of twist and cater it or make it better in a way. So the first episode, the way that they shot it, in a way, there's a lot of talking straight into the camera, the character.
Yes.
Like even the bachelor, the toxic bachelor, the poor ladies, everyone has a moment that actually talk into the camera, right into itself, their own point of view, their experience. How do you feel about that?
So it always felt weird to me, but it's because I didn't start watching from the beginning. I jumped in a few seasons in when I moved out because my parents did not let me watch that stuff in my house. So when I went to college, I started watching. And so I jumped in the middle. And so I remember when I went back and I was like, okay, cool. I get to start from the beginning when I got the discs. And I was like, oh, they're talking straight.
The disc, the DVD, ladies and gentlemen, and all those sermons there, were DVD back then. There's no streaming service, DVD.
No, I got those on the DVD. Yeah, and I remember thinking it was kind of unsettling because it was told in such that like almost cinematic HBO movie-like form. And so for it to be this like, hey, almost documentary, like right in your face, I was like, oh gosh. But I get it. Like I understand it because they're really catering to this idea that she's a columnist and she interviews people about sex all the time and love and romance and relationships. So that makes sense to me that they broke the fourth wall in that way.
Right. But the funny thing is, like, at that moment, I don't remember. For those who are watching right now, if you are way back then, remember, was The Office airing at the same time? Or was this the very first kind of like talking straight into the camera? Because The Office do that, Park and Recreation do that. They kind of like, glance right into the camera and kind of, give them
that mock documentary type of a vibe. Yeah. So Sex and the City, I just looked at it, was 1998 and The Office was 2005-ish, 4 or 5. So they overlapped, I think, and then wouldn't they have overlapped? But
later, yeah.
But later, yeah. Because how many seasons of Sex and the City are there? 7?
6, I think. 6. Yeah. Can you believe? Oh my goodness. They were kind of like the new, format of that kind of TV episode.
Yeah. Didn't that last a few more episodes too, or is it just the first one?
I think which will be interesting because we're gonna watch episode 2, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just the pilot. I think maybe second episode. I can't really confirm because I haven't First season is not the best season. It's not my favorite season.
Not your favorite, yeah.
But we have to start from the beginning. Like we have to talk about the iconic pilot but the intro though is timeless.
Yeah.
You know, with the tutu and the bus, timeless.
Yeah. And that like I love that contrast. And you see that even in the Sex and the City movie, like the difference between her real life and this persona of like, oh, I'm a sex expert and I'm on a billboard. Look at me, I'm on a bus. And like in the movies later, like, look at my couture wedding and all the things. But then you see her just like eating cups of noodles alone in her apartment, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, that's your real life. Just like we have a real life.
Right. And the apartment is completely different from, you know, the later on the glamorous apartment, even just the vibe of who they are completely different. I do have to say, Miranda and Samantha, actually Carrie is the one that has the biggest like change in a way, I feel like. But like Samantha, Miranda, and Charlotte was pretty on point from the beginning. Like you kind of sense it, like where the journey is gonna go. While Carrie is so big. Wink, wink. It's so big.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about, should we talk about like the episode itself?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think of things. I wrote some stuff down. I did like the toxic bachelors. Like I loved that like labeling and how we got to hear straight from them, which we don't see later. Like later, it feels like everything is just through Carrie's eyes and sometimes through the other characters' eyes. But it was interesting to see because so much of Sex and the City is women trying to figure out what's going through a guy's head. Like, why did he do that? Or how should I respond? Or should I do this? And all this strategy. And so it was interesting to hear it like straight from the guy's perspective.
I also feel like it's so universal also. Like I don't know nowadays because, you know, we are oldies but goodies, right? I don't know nowadays the mentality of how relatable it is because of the LGBT plus community is more open now. But way back when, I felt the connection with the issue that they talk about cling specifically to me also. And I don't know how to verbalize it in a way that even though I'm not a woman, but the way that they kind of structure it is kind of like, aha, I experienced that. I was there. And the 4 character, right? The 4 different characters are all one person, basically. We just split into 4. Because we all have Carrie in us. We all have Miranda and Charlotte. We all have that quality. And the way that they kind of split it in 4, I think is brilliant. Back to like tarot and spell.
The 4 suits.
Yeah, like the archetype, right? The major archetype, like the passion, the money, the brain. Brilliant.
So then who is which? Who's which one then?
I feel like okay, let's go with the sword. Sword is brain, right?
Right.
So is that more Carrie? I think it's more Carrie.
I think so because she's the artist and she's cutting through all of the stuff. But at the same time, Miranda is very like
reasonable
too. Like the reason kind of air versus like the creative type of air.
Yep. Lucy Aqualuna say Miranda is the brain because she is the lawyer, right? I kind of agree with that because you know she always kind of like Carrie, duh, right? The easiest one is Samantha. The easiest is the queen. It has to be the wands, the fire, the passion, the sex, right? It has to.
It's so phallic. I mean, she does have that one affair with a woman, but like, yeah, she's very like takes charge, grab on, do that.
And then Pentacles. What will Pentacle be?
I think, well, there is an aspect of Pentacles with Samantha too, in that she's very into her material things, like building her success and, you know, sex as a natural urge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe we could see Charlotte as being Earth too. She's so traditional.
Right.
In comparison, you know, like I think she gets a bad rap for sure. Like people think she's just prude or just basic or whatever. I like Charlotte, but and I think there's more to it. I mean, she runs a freaking art gallery. Like she's a professional and she's just, you know, she knows things. But yeah, there's that.
So will Carrie be cups then because of all the emotion? I mean, out of all, I don't know. This is so funny though, because Charlotte does get very emotional, but most of the big drama, like crazy, like so much thinking on the emotion aspect of it is Carrie.
Right.
Right? Okay, let's look at the comment here. Michelle say Samantha is the Queen of Wands, which is me. Thank you so much. Right? Miranda is the rational one, the logical one. Cups, I think, is Carrie, love and romance. We say that Carrie is cup, Miranda is air, Samantha is fire, and Charlotte is earth. I lean into that. I think so.
I think that that's a pretty good one.
Right? Nee over in Material Garden say Charlotte is cups, Miranda earth, which is true because of loyalty.
I can see that because she's very like no nonsense.
Well, let's put it that way. It comes down to we know for sure Samantha is Wands. We know for sure.
She's fire. She's all fire.
Thank you so much.
That's there, yeah.
So we checked that little tarot box. Thank you. We talk about tarot, we talk about the people, and let's talk about the topics on the episode. I wrote down love versus power.
Yes.
Right? Please elaborate. For you personally, and for those who are viewing and listening, love versus power. How much love and power is actually linked together?
Gosh, it's so funny because now I'm in my 30s and sort of single. I mean, I have a serious relationship, but I was single for a little bit after my divorce. And it's so weird to like be living this out in a way. Because when I watched this is a long backstory, but like when I watched these shows, I watched this one, what else did I watch that I thought of? Oh, Golden Girls. Or Bridget Jones's Diary. I never felt like these people were sad, ever. Like I never pitied that they were single. I always thought it looked super fun. I was like, you have these amazing friendships, like guys are just to the side for me, you know? Like I was invested in all the romantic storylines for sure, but I never saw the idea of being single at 35 as like a tragedy. So when it happened to me, I was like, oh, like I've been the same person since I was 21 and I was like gonna get my Samantha on. Turns out I'm not good at it. Or I'm too good at it because they all just turn into relationships. But so when I thought about all of this, I was really actually identifying with Charlotte in that I'm pretty strategic when I date. Like and it's weird because I'm this like rabid feminist. I have a feminist podcast and I say bitches all the time. But like and I'm queer too. So I dated, at the time I was dating men, I was dating women and I had some other non-binary folks in the mix, you know? So that was also kind of weird because it's like, it is different. It's not the same as dating men is not the same as dating women.
Okay.
My personal experience, it's not the same. So I'm going to kind of set women to the side, but like when I'm thinking about how I was approaching dating men, I was very like Charlotte. Like in some ways, where I'm like, I'm gonna not say this right away, or I'm not gonna like do such and such step too fast, you know, like having that strategy.
So you would, if I have to sum it up, you would kind of minimize your power or manipulate. I don't want to say manipulate, kind of like, you know, rework. How about that? Rework your power, leaning more towards love. Would that be a valid statement or no?
It's different for me because I'm not as, how do I say this? My career is a really huge part of my life,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think men find my career intimidating.
Okay.
Which is different from these women. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Do you value power more or love more?
If
you have to choose, either or, no in between, because I know power.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna say, well, what about this one? So for me personally, like, love is only of interest to me. It's very interesting. I love love. I'm a romantic, but like, I also am okay with being alone, and I value the love of like my family and my friendships and my coven and all that. And you know, my life is just so full. You know, so like I'm not really willing to compromise things anymore for love. So I kind of got that when Miranda's like, "Oh, why should I compromise?" Or "I've been waiting this long." Like,
which is kind of funny. I am deep down inside love over power. Like I would raise my whole power, which is my fault, on my first relationship ever, my only one relationship. I gave up all my power to him. And it's all focusing on love, 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 which is not a balanced act at all. But deep down inside, I always think that love is going to conquer all. Love, yes, love, 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 love. So in a way, I'm very much Charlotte. But then I use sex as power, very Samantha-like, all through my adulthood. I don't know, it's because of the LGBTQ, or at least I'm going to say the gay community, because, you know, men on men, right? That are that leans towards heavily more sex in the past, because, you know, dating, having a romance, public affection for gays is very, you know, under the radar, in the closet. But now with the new generation, it's so open, it's so beautiful, you know, it's all out in the air. So I feel like now the generation now is leaning actually more towards love and relationship, and my generation is really leaning towards the power of having sex and be who we are, and the freedom of claiming that we can do whatever we want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which leads to my question about, what about romance? Because which is kind of like an awakening moment for me right now, because I was leaning so much towards sex and power. When I have one little bit of a romance from my ex-boyfriend, I go from power to like, no power. Do whatever you want. My body is yours. It is whatever. I will do your laundry, fold your underwear. Love is here. I'm a housewife. It was like zoop, zoop, change. What is your opinion about romance, love, and romance?
I'm so big. So you know how big in that later on in the episode when they're in the car, and she's talking about how men just have sex without emotion, and he's like, I'm not like that. Not a drop. And I was like, I get it, because like, to me, I think big is going to get redeemed for me a lot in this rewatch. But I was like, yeah, that was when I was trying my Samantha thing. There is something about being in love and something about romance that is so intense and delicious and just makes everything better. Now, I would never sacrifice sex for romance ever. like I'm the people who are like, like people who are romantic but are asexual or whatever. I don't relate. You're valid. I love you. You're valid. I can't relate. Like it has to be passion and romance together. Mm-hmm. It have to happen together. Mm-hmm. But the romance just makes everything so much better for me. So like for me, I can get very caught up in romance. And I kind of did that with my ex-husband a little, that I retained a lot of power, but I did make some sacrifices that I wouldn't have made. So, yeah.
Oh, romance. Is it dead? I don't know. Like, which is kind of funny. Like, I don't know how many LGBT plus, LGBTQIA plus people, watcher, viewer right now in the chat. Like, one of the notes that I have dropped down is, does love and romance really exist in the gay community? Do you remember that shot when Carrie is talking to Stanford, right, in the restaurant, and then he was like, Carrie, only gay community has love and romance now. And when I watched that, at that moment, I was like, lies? What do you mean love and romance in gay community? Like, I don't know. And I jumped immediately into like, no, it's all Samantha, it's all sex, it's all man on man, it's all, animalistic. Where's love and romance? You BS. Which I don't know, it's because I personally never experienced that in that time of my life, or the mentality of power is so intoxicating, and the freedom of like, I can do whatever I want. I am unapologetic on every aspect of my being. I'm going to have sex with whoever I want. I will claim that I can do, I can sleep as many as people as I can, because at that time it feels like that's the revolution on, no more slut shaming. We are who we are. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's different. It's different dating out there now for sure too. Like the apps, all the apps.
Mm-hmm. Nowadays, girl, it's so easy.
Right.
It's not easy.
Right.
It's so easy, but yet it's not so easy.
Right. And so I was thinking about that when it's like the way I used to meet people. Mm-hmm. Like you drop your condoms on the street and Big picks them up, You're like, oh, hi. And like giving your phone number to people. Like, I mean, sure, that still happens. I've still done that. But like, I do feel like at least my quick foray, the very short period of time between my marriage and my next relationship, it was very much about the apps. It was like I met a lot of people that way.
Can't relate. I mean, I can relate with Grindr, but it's and that's the also funny thing. At the beginning of Grindr is all sex, 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 right. And now Grindr is actually more leaning into like we have a conversation. I'm here to chat. We want to get to know each other more. It's so like I feel like my golden time of dating has kind of passed. I'm older now, and no one like. Now love and romance is like beautiful and big in the gay community, and I passed my prime. That's how I feel sometimes.
Aww. I hate that. I love that you said it because it feels true to you, but I hate it.
I hate it. Let's look at the chat.
A lot of people would say the same thing about me, right? Like, oh my gosh, a 36-year-old woman, like she's past her prime.
You're gorgeous. You're in your prime. You're handling your business. You're on top of things. Independent women, and you've been through marriages, and you know what you want.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I felt like that is where I did sort of have my Samantha feelings. Not so much sleeping around, but like I felt very confident, and I dated a lot of younger people too because they're single, you know.
It's a completely different world with the gay community, though. I don't think a lot of younger men would date me now, and also there's so much baggage to it for me personally, and with the community being gay, being kind of feminine, or I'm just saying I am feminine. I'm all over the place. I'm living my best life in a way, right? But anywho. So let's look at the chat. I posed the question, say love versus power. Which one do you choose? Michelle say love, love, love. Well, Song 81 saying that I've chosen power and will always choose power, but I have some regret. Which is also right. It's a balance act, right? Love is power. Power is power. Well, can we reverse it? Love is power. Is power is love? Can we reverse that? Would that be a valid statement?
Power is love. No, I don't think it works the same way. Because love is power makes sense, because when you feel love, you feel emboldened and you feel juicy and you look at me, and you also have, like, if it's reciprocated, right, then there is like a connection, there's a support, there's a power in that. Is there power in just feeling love? Maybe, in some metaphysical way, but it can feel pretty disempowering when you're all strung out on romance and love. Oh, I just love this person. Just give me that person.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Do you have any other things you want to talk about? I've talked about all my points. Love versus power. What about romance? And love and romance in the gay community. Those are the 3 points that I've dropped down. I've done my homework. That's what I brought to the table. What else do you want to talk about? Stella Speaks.
I wanted to talk about this whole Charlotte Samantha thing that happened with the toxic bachelor. And I found all of this episode really interesting and non-judgmental, and that it showed, like, okay, here's Carrie trying to have sex like a man with Kurt, and feeling great and feeling empowered, and then she meets Big, and it's like, oh, that's, lightning strikes, right? And then later in the episode, when he's just like, oh, you've never been in love, have you? To her, and she's just like, oh my gosh, no, I haven't. So I thought that part was really interesting, but also this whole thing about how Charlotte's trying to catch this guy, right? That these bachelors are out there and they're uncatchable, and they're like the women want to marry these people so badly and the men don't want it, and like this whole like power dynamic thing. And I just thought it was so interesting that, Charlotte, she's trying to be strategic and, oh, I'm not going to sleep with them too soon. And then he just goes out to the bar. And it's just so obvious to her. I'm like, no one would be that obvious, like, to say to her, I just need to have sex tonight, so I'm going to the bar. Like, no, you wouldn't say that. You say, oh, I'm going to meet up with some friends. Like, don't be so obvious about it. I'm like, who would say that? But then how?
Yes, in a TV episode, yes.
Right. But then how Samantha ends up sleeping with him that night, because that's her thing. And it's like, did anybody get what they wanted?
In a way, yeah, it's all circle up, like the answer, which is, I think, what the brilliancy about that pilot is. It answered their own question in a very circle wheel of fortune type of form, like, right, like what we are talking about, love versus power, like it's all going around and around, like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, right? And the way that, like, once she has a moment of empowerment, and then knock the air out of her, right? And then that little scene right there of like Charlotte is thinking like, oh, I've got it, I got him, like you said, and then he said, no, I have to have sex. And then the most brilliant moment for me, because I connected so much to Samantha, is when they were about to have sex, and then the shot was him going down on her, and then you can see her face have some kind of, not regret, but kind of like, because he just said, you have to go after this because I have an early morning, right? And then Samantha also kind of said, well, I have an early morning too. But there's some kind of like,
there's that moment in her where it's like, this is what I want. This is going to reveal my hand a little. This is what I want, but I want you to want more.
In a way.
Because like, I know I've experienced times when I'm like, you're dating someone, and even though you're not falling in love with them, you still want them to want you.
Exactly.
Right?
Which is so beautifully stated, the love versus power. In a way, she uses the power override on the softer love aspect of it. In that moment, I choose power. Let's have sex. I can walk away as well. But yeah, you can see a glimpse of like the longing for love, like kind of like, oh, you can sleep over. It is kind of like the balance of control of the power also, but who knows, right? But we can see the struggle, which is where the beautiful thing for me for this series is like, we left out Miranda.
Oh yeah, Miranda.
We left
little Skipper.
Oh my goodness, Skipper. Oh, I was like, if there's a gay Skipper in my life, I'm like,
that's the one.
Right? Yeah. Where are you? But at the same time, though, I dig deeper. I'm like, do I want a Skipper? Will you want a Skipper? For those who are watching and listening right now, and if you haven't watched Sex and the City, Skipper is the nice guy. It's not the toxic bachelor. It's the nice guy, right? And super, like, feminist, pro-female, not, confrontational, yes and type of guy. Will you, everyone in the chat, and you, Stella, what is your take on Skipper?
So I tend to go for pretty nice guys in general. Skipper doesn't really do anything for me in particular, but like, how do I put this?
How do you put it?
I'm trying to put words around it. I like someone who I can fight with, kind of. So like, I really relate to Miranda just talking shit about men right to Skipper's face. Like, I'm all that way. like yeah, I'll be like patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. Like I'll go on a feminist rant on like the first date. That's fine. So I connected with Miranda, but like, I need someone who's like, but what that will like fight back with me about it. Not that I want them to disagree exactly, but like, Skipper just being like all, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, and just being like so enamored with her. Like that, I didn't find that attractive. Even though I think he's a cutie. I do think he's a cutie.
The funny thing is, I did date, like, not a relationship, I dated a guy. I hope he's not watching this. I don't think he's gonna watch this. But I dated a guy who was still in the closet, which is very Skipper-like, because, he doesn't know a lot of things, he trusts me, and, whatever I say is, which I'm like, I don't know, it's because so much of it that he doesn't know because he was in the closet, or how much of it is he's actually a Skipper archetype, the super nice guy. But he did at the end of the dating cycle, he was kind of like, I have to keep saying no to him a lot. which is kind of like where the like I don't think it's gonna work because I cannot be the decision maker constantly. You know, you have to stand your ground and have an opinion also. And then he had an opinion. He had an opinion. He was like, you just don't like nice guy. You just don't, you just hate me because I'm still in the closet. You're not willing to take that leap of faith to jump off the cliff with me. And I was like, he caught my tongue. I was like, and then I was going back out to my journal. I'm like, I couldn't help myself but wonder, am I not brave enough to take that leap of faith? Or am I too jaded? Blue blown carry moment by myself, typing up on my mat, having my cup of coffee, no cigarette, and really wonder, like, am I that jaded? A skipper came along. I still keep in touch with him, by the way.
Yeah.
And he's like happily with the, guy, and look at me. That. Look at me. Make bad decision, YM. Oh. Let's see. What is it?
I said, who knows?
Who knows?
That's the thing about these things. We don't even know what's good or bad.
We can only talk about it. We can only talk it out, understand ourselves a bit better. And hopefully this episode, this Hacks in the City will lean into that, right? Knowing thyself is important. I ask in the chat right now, so that for you listener is wondering what we're talking about, I ask, skipper, ? Yes or no? Michelle said that skipper is a no for me. The Tigers of Bliss said, I don't know him. I don't know him. Is that you don't know him as a person, or you don't know him in your real life, or you haven't found a skipper in your life yet? Well, Song 81 said, I simply like to meet a true skipper. That's another big point. How many are true skipper?
That's the thing, because I will say as a woman, this whole nice guy thing, guy who's say a nice guy, sometimes it's all a fraud. It's all a front to like get you to lower your walls.
Use love to gain power. See, full circle, ladies and gentlemen. So maybe power is actually more important than love. Otherwise, the nice guy is going to use love to gain your power. Ooh, girl. Big moment right here, Hacks in the City. The only time Miranda was interested in Skipper was when he wasn't interested in her. Oh, that is an utter episode right there. There's a 6-hour podcast. There's a 6-hour TED Talk. Like we're living the TED Talk now, talking about these kind of struggles.
Yeah, that dance of interest, which I know.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So Skipper don't have or say their own opinion. Well, at the end, spoil alert. Later on, Skipper does have an opinion. Lucy said, I know him, but I don't know, ... Lisa said, no, Skipper. Maybe you want too much in your life and you have it in your face. Maybe you have too much in your life and you have it in your face. I don't quite understand that, but yes, and thank you. Yes, sometimes the nice ones are the worst.
Mm-hmm. Nice in, entre comillas, nice in, what's it called? Quotation marks.
Yeah. Disguise. The disguise. Oops.
Music used without permission of HBO.
My ranking is City. Do not hate me. Do not add me. Only follow and subscribe me. Thank you so much. Okay, so which is now is 50 minutes into the podcast, into the live. Let's sum it up because we want to keep it an hour 5 minutes whatsoever so people can watch it. So this brilliant idea come from Miss Stella Speaks. Tell them what we are doing next?
So next we're going to play a little game. And the game is called Show the People. So I say it in order. Cleanse, bless, hex, which is our witchy take on F, marry, kill, or kiss, kill, cohabitate, if you want to phrase it in that sense. So I've picked 3 characters from the episode. Wise picked 3 characters from the episode. And we are going to give the other person those 3 characters, and that person has to decide, of those 3 characters, who are you going to cleanse, right? Like, who needs a little help? Who are you going to bless? You like this person, you want good things for them. And who are you going to hex? Who's going in the freezer? Whose name's getting burned up? Who's getting the hot pepper? All right.
So, I don't know if you have watched, later on, we'll probably do a better schedule-wise so that we'll announce, hey, we're doing it on Friday at 1 is the episode. So you guys can watch it so they can join in and, have the same fun game. But if you know that episode whatsoever, if you don't know the episode, whatever comes in your mind, you can play along as well in the chat right now. So basically, it's the same as F, marry, or kill. So F will be same as cleanse, because you kind of like just cleanse it once and then call it a day. Like boop, we'll do a little cleansing. You might
little holy water, little herbs.
Yep.
Go on your way.
Yep, go on your way, because then you might come back. You cleanse. After you cleanse it, yes, maybe it can last forever, but you don't know. You just do one ritual, right? You do one beautiful ceremony, you cleanse it, you let it go, let the good juju, boop, done. So that's kind of same as F, in our opinion.
Close enough.
Right? And then marry will be the same as blessed. You have blessed it, all evil are gone, ding ding, ceremony done.
Blessings, good things, prosperity, longevity, all the goodness.
Exactly. So that's bless. And then pretty much self-explanatory, kill, hex that. Hex that. Okay, so we'll give a good 1 minute, maybe, 30 seconds. Let's do a minute for all of you in the chat right now who are watching. Comment down below, who would you want to cleanse? Who would you want to bless? And who would you want to hex? Which is leaning into, we talk about the tarot aspect of it, right? So tell us a little bit about your witchness, Miss Stella.
Okay, so that is something I've identified with for a really long time, since probably about the mid-90s, 96, 97. My craft has really been pretty focused on self-empowerment and making the world a better place. So for me, like, it's a lot of it is about reclaiming power too, really, right? Like taking that word witch and very like intentionally saying like, oh, somebody just walked by my door. Yeah, we had a special guest. What's I saying?
Your witchhood.
Oh yeah, reclaiming it, right? So that's like a word that anyone can use, right? But it's this. The history of the word, it's often been applied just to women, right? Mm-hmm. And used as a weapon against women. And so like reclaiming that for me is really important. So it's like, yeah, I'm a powerful woman. And what of it? And the power of the universe. And what of it,
Right. Okay, so Lucy brought up a good point, which we can discuss it. They thought that hex is the F. Is it?
Well, yeah, I mean, because they're both harsh words, right? And sometimes we tell someone to like F off. So it's not necessarily always like, we were thinking of it like sex being this like cleansing, sweaty, like release of energy kind of a vibe. But so that's why we thought those ones went together. But yeah, I guess it could be.
Is that better? Should I do that? I think so. I think so. No, I think let's keep it that way.
Cleanse, bless.
Yeah.
Hex. All right. So here, I've got my 3 characters. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to give you 3 characters. You have to tell me, who would you cleanse, who would you bless, who would you hex?
Okay.
Kurt. Do you remember Kurt?
Uh-huh.
Her ex that she has her little flippity with. Skipper. And Mr. Big.
Oh my God, stop.
I know I did. So yeah, so who are you going to cleanse? Who are you going to bless? And who are you going to hex? Shut up.
Wow.
I know, I wrote mine down too.
We did not, like, honestly, we did not plan it. She like specifically, do not tell me who you pick.
I said, don't tell me.
Okay, so
all right. First, I guess.
Character, which is a good thing. We all have the same character, Kurt Harrington, which is the Carrie's, sex partner, on and off. And then Skipper, Mr. Nice Guy. And then Mr. Big, the dreamy, romantic lead in a way in this episode. For me, I know for sure, based on this is we also have
just this episode. That's the thing. We can't add all this other like big baggage. Just this episode.
Just this episode. Based on this episode, I am blessing Mr. Big. I'm blessing Mr. Big. I'm hexing Kurt.
Yes.
And I am cleansing Skipper.
I think that's valid. I think that's fair.
What about you? We all agree that we're going to hex Kurt for sure.
Right. Yes. Hex Kurt for sure. The beginning of the episode, he doesn't seem that bad, but like the way that he's talks to Carrie at Chaos, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't like it. So I'm seeing people in the chat who would hex Mr. Big, which there are episodes where I will put him in the hex pile.
Sure.
In this particular episode, he didn't do anything to tick me off. So I would go with hex
Kurt.
But then that's where I'm like, all right, Skipper or Big. And I'm like, Skipper, I think, needs cleansing in this episode because he needs help, right? Like he needs to figure out like how to approach women, deal with things, manage his own expectations. Where in this episode, Big is totally the romantic, dreamy hero who's like, oh, you've never been in love, and love is so wonderful. And when Samantha tries to take him downstairs, he's like, no, he's like Mr. Love. He's a Knight of Cups, maybe a King of Cups, So in this episode, he needs plenty of cleansing. Let's be honest about Mr. Big when we watch the rest of this series. But for this particular episode, I agree with you.
Yay! Because I was like, I feel bad for Skipper. I'm like, you know what, Skipper, you can have it for one time. I will do some beautiful ritual, cleanse you a little bit, go out into the wild, get dirty, come back to me. Maybe I'll bless you. How about that?
We'll see.
Right? But just the idea of like when he at the last shot saying that, excuse me, have you ever been in love? And Mr. Big said, absolutely. I was like, yes, I want to bless you and cleanse you at the same time. I will continue to cleanse and bless you and cleanse and bless in a cycle. We'll just keep on doing that repeat. That's my cycle with him.
That is a moment. That is a moment because he's like, he is simultaneously, this goes back to love and power, so vulnerable in that moment, so cocky about it. It's like, he's like, yeah, I've been in love. Of course I have. Why wouldn't I have been? And it's amazing, you know, like you're just like, oh, wow. Okay.
Let's look at the chat. What do they say? Michelle said, cleanse Kurt. Okay, so keep on that routine, you know, keep doing Kurt.
Maybe come around, get a little respectful. They could come to an agreement.
And bless big, which is like, okay, great. Marry him, call it a day, and then hack skipper. Too nice. Bye. Done.
Yeah.
And
there's something about you.
Right. And because we don't know if Skipper is using love to gain power.
Right.
It's very personal.
Though, remember?
Yeah.
And the way that she manipulates that situation is like, she's like, who can I set him up with? She's like, Miranda, that's the worst one. I'm like, Carrie, what kind of friend are you? I was like, that's not a good friendship move. And the other not good friendship move is Charlotte canceling her plans for that last minute date.
Gross. Lucy said, we'll cleanse Skipper, we'll bless Kurt, and hacks Mr. Big. But I don't know if that is based on the episode, but in general, which is valid, cleanse Skipper, done by bless Kurt, which is very interesting, because maybe the turnaround will be there, and hacks Mr. Big. I think this one is more leaning towards what she knows, what's Lucy know down the road. Okay.
I don't know. We haven't really talked about spoilers. This show is like 20 years old, so I plan on. Tiger's Abyss is like spoilers. Like, well, yeah. So we'll have an off-channel discussion about spoilers because I feel like we haven't seen. I mean, I don't know.
We'll structure it better. So, we'll say now you know the format, you know what we're doing with this podcast live thingy, and then we'll announce when we're going to do the next episode. And we might skip and let's do season 1 episode 6 or we because otherwise this Hacks in the City will be it will be a marathon. It will be a marathon.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, let's ask all those people who are in here watching the inaugural season of Hacks in the City, would you think about it, that enjoy every single episode of Sex and the City? We're going to do it. And then it will be a year from now that we finish the whole 6th season and the movie. Or should we choose the episode out of our interest that we thought that we can talk about, and then we'll announce it and say, hey, next Friday we're doing Hacks in the City episode 2, and we're gonna focus on Sex in the City season 1 episode 3 or 4, and then you watch it, do your note, come back and watch it. Who knows?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll put that to the people.
To the people.
We'll put it to the people.
All right. I think this is it. This is the beautiful inaugural episode of Hacks in the City. Wait, just because we have to do it. What are you wearing? What are you wearing?
Not Manolo Blahniks.
Well, show the audience or tell the audience.
You want everyone to see? Okay. So I was doing my little Charlotte thing, right? So I got my little floral dress, the faux pearls, and then these little leafy earrings. So there's like a whole like floral organic motif. However, I'm gonna be really real. I was wearing a t-shirt with jeans, and so I just threw my dress on over my jeans. So that's happening. Also, I'm wearing Toms, not Manolos. So there's that.
Very Carrie. I thought about maybe I should have a hat, a flower, and but
nice.
Well, I wouldn't do it per episode, per season. So I'm channeling the more toxic bachelor vibe, the very 80s, like pop the collar, like that type of vibe. And then I have to. This is not super suitable for children because we're all adults here. We're talking about Sex in the City.
Sex in the City, come on.
Let me check though. I don't have any like. So I'm wearing boxers. The lucky boxers.
Ooh, la la.
Wearing boxers, right? Because the toxic bachelor have to wear lucky boxers, and this might be too much for anyone, and I have to be super careful because the lucky boxers where the fly is have a little thingy say lucky you. Can you see?
Oh my,
right?
They're really letting you know. That's it's a little bit of that Samantha swag to like lucky you.
Thank you.
I'm as good looking as any model.
Queen of Wands, that's me. Samantha, that's me, and I have nothing.
And
bare feet. Thank you. OnlyFans available soon. Okay, so I think that's it. Or do we want to talk? What else do you want to talk about?
I think that's all I've got. I think that I covered all the things I wanted to talk about, except for that I love Stanford.
Oh, Stanford. We'll talk about Stanford.
We'll talk about him later. He's darling.
Do we want to draw a card one more time? Or no, we don't. No, we already did. We don't need. We look forward to the next episode, which we don't know yet. A well song 81 said that you picked the episode. Lucy preferred selected episode. And then Michelle said that every single episode, all of them, and the movie, maybe not the second one. I actually enjoyed the second one, thank you, because it's heavily on Samantha, which I love. Okay, I think that's it. An hour and 7 minutes. I hope you enjoy this episode, the very first episode of Sex and the City. Where they can find you, Stella.
Yeah, so you can find the audio version of this podcast here in the next couple days. Will be available on Podbean is where I host. And then if you have an Apple product, you can use just the Apple podcast. And then you can also find me on Spotify.
Thank you so much. And I am on the Cusp Tarot, as all you know. If you're listening to your podcast, once again, on the Cusp Tarot. You can find me anywhere. Instagram, YouTube. YouTube will be watching this. And then do me a favor. I'm almost to 1,000 followers, subscriber on TikTok. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, almost to 1,000. So if you can go, I think it's like 915 right now or something like that. Go there. I need 85 people more. Get me to 1,000, and then I can do live over there on TikTok. And who knows what I'll do? Who knows? All right. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Remember to subscribe and turn on the notification bell on both podcasts for Stella Speaks and me on the Cusp Tarot. And we're going to end it with our favorite saying.
Blessed be, bitches.
Blessed be, bitches. See you next round. And